the Land Equipment Assurance Inspection Survivors Guide for HODs. On the 6th of October, the Land Equipment Assurance team will be visiting 16 Medical Regiment. They'll be auditing our processes and procedures with regards to equipment care. What does this mean to you as a HOD? A member of the team may visit your department to assure that you are complying with the standards set by the QM Tech and ultimately the commanding officer with regards to how you look after your equipment and how you document that. There are many areas that they could look at. So what I've done is create a framework for you so that you don't fail to do something that will negatively affect the findings of your department, the squadron, and ultimately the regiment. The report is read by the commanding officer, and good or bad points reflect the regiment at brigade level. So it's important to get this right. A good or a bad report can affect our credibility and ultimately people's decisions with whether to use us or not. So again, it's important to get this right. So how do we ensure that we're complying with equipment care policy? The policy is written at Army level. However, it's the QM Tech's job to look at that policy and extract information from it and tailor it to 16 Med. It goes without saying that different regiments, different formations have got different equipment, so their own tailored equipment care policy will look much different because they're using different pieces of kit and they're going to have different processes and procedures. The document that the QM Tech produces is called the Unit Equipment Care Directive. That is 16 Med's Bible of how we do equipment care, and we must follow and comply with that. It's a large document. It's made up of various chapters, and it basically tells you everything you could possibly need to know about how 16 Med conduct their equipment care. It's unrealistic to expect you as HODs to read the entire Unit Equipment Care Directive. It's more used to dip in and out of as a reference and a guide to make sure that you're doing everything you should be doing and you're doing it correctly. So what I've done is extract what I feel is the most important documents and processes from the UECD to give you a structure and a scaffolding to make sure that you can get through the LEA and people can come to your department, look at your kit and equipment and your processes, and you won't drop any large clangers with regards to equipment care. There's certain things that if you get wrong are effectively a red. We all know what reds are in inspections when we do things like validations. We can do many things very well, but there's certain aspects of things that we must do exactly correct, otherwise it can have large implications for findings of reports, etc. What I've done is created for you a question set that you can take yourself through to ensure that you're compliant, and it's in the form of an audit, and you can write your findings, or I can come to your department and we can discuss the findings and work through how we can be better as a department. You'll notice on the document the Unit Equipment Care Directive is hyperlinked so that you can find it on SharePoint. If you haven't got this document, it has already been emailed to you again, but if you haven't got that email, let me know and I'll send it to you so you've got a link within my audit for the Unit Equipment Care Directive for yourself to work through. The link that you've got to the UECD will take you to the front page of the document, and it's split down into chapters. Each chapter is hyperlinked on the front page. It's not displayed here, but on the version that you've got it will be, just for your convenience, so that if you're using the references, it's very easy to quickly click on a chapter and get to the relevant annex or part of that document that you need. So the question set and the thing that I want you to do a self-audit on yourself with my help is split into 13 questions. Obviously you can see 7 on this page. and the rest are on another page of the audit. I want you to work your way through these systematically, helping yourself with use of the UECD. However, I'll always be on hand to come and help you with anything that you don't understand or any questions that you have. This part's important. As you can see, where the arrow's pointing, it says UECD version 1, which is the entire UECD, and it says what chapter you require and the annex. Most of the things that you need to do and action and ensure that you're compliant with are annexes. It's actual paperwork that you need to use to show that you're compliant with equipment care policy and you're carrying out the procedures that we need to do. Here you can see the actual question itself. I've tried to do it in plain English. Again though, if you don't understand it, come and see me and I can take you through it because I do understand what you need to do. The next column is for myself or yourself to write in action points, things that you need to improve upon, some things that you need to do to ensure that you're compliant with the UECD. And the last column is your final check. Are you compliant or not? I don't really like partially compliant. You're either doing what you should be or you're not. And if you follow the guides and the question that's asked, you'll be fully compliant. Okay, so first question, you see on the left-hand side, UECD, Chapter 2. Have all relevant individuals in the department signed to confirm they're aware and understand their EC responsibilities. And this is the Troop HOD's roles and responsibilities. I'm not going to talk any more about it. That's for you to read and understand in your own time. Question 2, does the department head, the HOD, have a link to the most up-to-date version of 16 Medical Regiment, UECD? Yes, you do, because it's in this audit, and like I showed you before, it's hyperlinked. Question 3, does the HOD have a working knowledge of the UECD, what its purpose is, and how to use it? Yes, you do, because it's included in this presentation. Question 4, is the department maintaining a quarantine register in accordance with the most recent edition of the UECD? So what you need to do is, if you haven't got one in your department already, UECD, Chapter 5, Annex U, you must have a quarantine register in your department, whether it's in a file or with the equipment. This is the only way that you can show to someone auditing your department that if you had a piece of equipment in your department and it was unserviceable, that you have effectively quarantined that equipment and not had it available for issue whilst it's effectively non-task worthy. This is really important, and this is the crux of equipment care. You really need to understand the quarantine register and how it relates to all the other procedures in the department. And for your benefit, this is what a quarantine register looks like. Don't pay attention to it saying Annex V, it is actually Annex U. It's just I have only got an older version of the UECD to work from. It's Annex U. Question 5. Is the department able to access James, view serviceability of all James managed equipment, process faults, compile an MDSS or REMI work request? So what this means is, are you able to log on James and do its basic functions? At an absolute bare minimum, you need to be able to log on, find a piece of equipment, see if it's task-worthy, non-task-worthy, red or green on James, and then create a work request if it's not. This is the bare minimum. If you can't do this, come and see me and I can show you how to do it. You also, everybody's done the James training. I know that that's not the best answer to the problem because James training is not intuitive. So if you can't do that bare minimum that I've stated, come and see me and I'll show you how to do it. Question 6. Does the department hold a record of maintenance experience chart, what we call RMEX, And are the department members accounted for on all relevant equipment? When I say relevant equipment, it's anything that turns on, anything that requires a level 1 user check. So this is the RMEC, the record of maintenance experience chart. Each individual in your department, including yourself, is to have one. Number, rank, name here. This is where you write the different equipments that you have that requires competencies in your department. And this is where you write the various things that you need to do with that piece of equipment, i.e. level 1 user check, cleaning, fault finding, etc. Anything that's relevant to you, your department, and that equipment. And these squares is where you record how competent that individual is with that equipment. The form's fairly self-explanatory, but again, come and see me if you have any problems with it. So you also need to prove that training has happened on that equipment. You can't just put on the RMEC that this person is competent. You need some sort of proof that you've actually run equipment care training for that relevant equipment. And that's done with this form, Chapter 6, Annex B. What you need to have is lots of equipment care training that you carry out throughout the year and capture it whenever you do it. But again, the very bare minimum is anything on an RMEC must be supported with a nominal role on this form for anyone in your department. So that's really important that you have to capture that. So question 8, is the department maintaining a user monthly inspection report, UMI? This is what your UMI looks like. As you can see, it is very self-explanatory. You just have a list of all your equipments, primarily your electromed, and whether that equipment is serviceable, unserviceable, it's got a fault, or it's on loan for that month. You need to update them monthly. So this is probably the most important question of the entire audit. And this is where a department could potentially fail and get a red for their LEA report for their department's findings. So does the department have any equipment that's currently outside of its servicing schedule or faulty whilst not being either quarantined or with the repair servicing agency, which in this case for us, for our EME, is MDSS. So if you have a piece of equipment that's sat on your shelf and it's available for issue and it's not been serviced properly, and it's outside of its service schedule, i.e. the little 1023 sticker on it said August 20 and it's now September, or it's found to be faulty, if the team asks you to perform a level 1 user check on it and it doesn't work, it's then faulty, or it's damaged and it's not in the quarantine register and it's not with MDSS, then that is essentially a safety failure, and that part of the inspection for you guys will get a red, and that has ramifications on the overall grading of the report for the regiment and your department. So that is really, really important that you understand how to avoid this not happening. So question 10. Does all information marry up across multiple documents so that serviceability states are accurately represented in your quarantine register, in your records on James, in your user monthly inspections, and also your 373s? So James is the primary tool for equipment serviceability, and that's what everything else takes its information from. So that's why it's really important that you as a HOD can use James and its various functions to aid us in equipment care. If something becomes faulty, you need to record the fault on James. If we're away, I'll do it on my James deployed system, and you need to put it in your quarantine register. You then need to record that in your UMIs, your user monthly inspections, and you need to record any fault that's happened on that piece of equipment, the 373. So if you're saying equipment is serviceable from a certain date to a given date, represented by the green arrow here, that needs to be represented across all documents that we use. If you then have a fault that you need to record on James, that needs to be recorded across all the multiple documents. And this is the main point of failure where people fail to comply with the policy, because there's a few documents that we need to record the serviceability and the unserviceability of our equipment. For those who this is relevant to, is the department displaying the correct management of plant recorded on a monthly maintenance register? This is for troops, MRS and ABSG. Just need to show that you're first sprayed in your plant every month and that you're checking that you've got your CES. Question 12. Does the HOD maintain a battery management register for all equipment that requires it? So anything that has a battery in it will require maintenance, and you need to show that you know the maintenance for that battery. It differs from piece of equipment to piece of equipment, and you need to know where to find where the manufacturer tells you how to manage that equipment, and that is usually in the AESP, the Army Equipment Support Publication, and that's found on a place online called TDOL, Technical Docs Online. The link for TDOL, Technical Docs Online, which contains all the Joint Service publications or the Army Equipment Support publications for every piece of equipment that requires it. And this is where you'll find things like how to manage the batteries, how to get an NSN for ANSILs for your equipment, how you maintain the equipment, how you do level 1 user checks. All this information is supplied in the AESPs, and you find it through TDOL. So you need to save the link on the audit questionnaire to your favourites and know and have a working knowledge of TDOL. As you know, and as we've found out recently, 16 Med find themselves in many and various different places, many times at short notice. It's really, really vital that we're not just ticking boxes for an inspection. All the stuff that I've listed in this audit also helps and supports the squadron to ensure that our kit is within its proper servicing schedule, i.e. it's safe to use, it's not faulty, and if it is, we're following the procedures to get that kit turned around as quickly as possible and help them to treat our patients.